Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be doing a prediction between the current governor of Pennsylvania, the Democrat, Josh Shapiro, versus the current vice president and most likely Republican frontrunner in 2028, that being J.D. Vance. So we'll be doing a prediction between these two candidates, not necessarily a prediction that either of them will win their respective parties' primaries, but fun to do a general election prediction. So Josh Shapiro is, like I mentioned, Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. He won his election. His opponent was a fairly controversial figure, and Josh Shapiro was able to do quite well in a state that really both parties are hoping they can win in 2028. The state of Pennsylvania, of course, is the swing state of the core 7 that has the most electoral college votes, so it is certainly a prize that both parties want to win. And in 2024, Harris considered Shapiro as her running mate. Ultimately, she didn't go with him. Shapiro has also tried to portray himself as more of a moderate. He's received some criticism, some in the Democratic Party, on his stance on Israel and the positions there. He's had a few other issues where he's shown to be more of a moderate, and I think he would be a good contender for Democrats to put forward on the presidential level. There's also a legitimate possibility that he ends up being a running mate of a different Democrat. But for now, we'll just be doing a hypothetical prediction between these two. And as far as J.D. Vance goes, author, and then he was a former senator from Ohio, later picked as Trump's running mate in 2024. And of course, Trump won in 2024, so he is now the vice president. And he is, at the moment, I would predict him to be more likely to win the Republican Party's primary than Shapiro to win the Democrats, but not necessarily a prediction either of them will. We'll start out with the general prediction, though. I'll start out in Nevada and then move eastward. So in Nevada, I'm going to put the state of Nevada into Shapiro's category. I think this will be one of the easier states, if not the easiest state, for Democrats to flip back into their column as far as states they lost in 2024. So that's going to be 6 electoral college votes for Shapiro. And then Arizona, I am not certain about this state. I think that with a character other than Trump, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Trump has been at the top of the ticket for the presidential race for the last 12 years, so it'll be interesting to see what a Republican other than Trump does. And Vance, in many ways, is similar. He's, of course, Trump's vice president, so virtually very identical on party affiliation and whatnot. But that is going to be, I'm going to call the state of Arizona for J.D. Vance. I just figure there are a lot of McCain-esque, more moderate Republicans who in 2020 voted for Biden, ultimately resulting in the state going blue that year. And then 2024, many of them voted for Harris. Ultimately, the state still went to Trump. But I think if the Republican nominee were someone less controversial than Trump, who is certainly controversial, has a lot of scandals, that would play well in the state of Arizona and would result in a Republican victory. So that's going to be 231 to 230. I think Shapiro will pull ahead by another vote here with the district in Omaha. This isn't too much of a surprising forecast. This district went to Harris in 2024, so nothing too out of the usual that it would remain in the Democratic Party's column. In 2028, we'll have to see what happens. We don't even know if these two people will be the nominees. We're still quite a ways out from the Democratic primary, from both parties' primaries, as well as the general election in 2028. But if I were to call it and the election were to be held today, I would put that district into Shapiro's category. So that is going to be one more electoral college vote for him. And then I'll go to the other half of the Sun Belt, Georgia. I'm going to put that into Shapiro's category. This state had some great elections for Democrats recently, and Democrats are optimistic about a Senate race that the incumbent, John Ossoff, is a Democrat, defending his seat. That'll, of course, be this November in 2026, but that'll be an interesting election to keep an eye on. Should Democrats prevail, it might give an indication that the state is willing to go blue in 2028 on the presidential level. This state went for Biden in 2020, kind of shocked the nation by ending up in the Democratic Party's column. So this state is going to be 16 electoral college votes for Shapiro. And then we get to the state of North Carolina. In this one, I'm going to do the tilt red prediction. So North Carolina hasn't gone blue on the presidential level since 2008, and I don't think it would happen if the election were to be held today between these two candidates. I think there's a shot. Democrats were optimistic they could win it in 2024, ultimately didn't materialize, and resulted in another Republican victory in the state. That is going to be 248 to 246. And then we come to the Rust Belt. That will really decide the presidency. The state I feel the most comfortable in calling is going to be the state of Pennsylvania. So that's Shapiro's home state. J.D. Vance, of course, also has some Rust Belt charm, being former senator from Ohio. And Shapiro, of course, is current governor of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is a state Democrats definitely want to win. Both parties do. So that is going to be 19 votes for the Shapiro campaign. And then generally the Rust Belt does vote together. I feel fairly reasonably confident with Wisconsin going blue. Michigan, I think, is slightly less likely, but I do think just with the national environment favoring Democrats, as well as a pretty strong candidate such as Shapiro at the top of the ticket, that it would result in a blue Rust Belt with 292 electoral college votes for Josh Shapiro to 246 for J.D. Vance. Don't forget to like and subscribe.